Jake has done a mock draft, and a couple of trades are setting the table here. So the Browns trade 33, 192, and a 2026 sixth rounder to get up, trade back actually, pick 36 in the second round, and then they move up and get 107. They also trade picks 94, 200, and 216 to Houston to move up a couple of spots in the third, get 89 and 236. So they keep number 2, and Jake hasn't taken Travis Hunter. He kind of alluded to it. You get Milroe at quarterback. You get a tight end in Arroyo. You mentioned Sampson, and you get a safety, Billy Bowman. You look at that. So Hunter and Milroe, kind of the top 2. Tell me what you like about those 2 and pairing them together.
Well, I think, I've kind of laid it all out with Hunter about the player I think he's going to be. I think Dane Brugler, who just released his fantastic draft guide, sort of said the same thing. I think he's the top corner in the draft. I think he's the top wide receiver in the draft. I think he wants to be a receiver primarily. He leans that direction if he had to choose, but I think the Browns are going to be open to letting him play both ways. And I'm open to that too. I think there's a world in which he's on the field on offense a lot of the snaps, maybe 80%. He's off the field, heavy tight end sets, or maybe some different personnel groupings. He's off the field to get a little bit of a break here and there, and that's something they can bake in. Same for defense, but it's really whatever they want to do. I don't think they can go wrong. I don't think you're drafting him to strictly play corner. I think they want him to be a wide receiver and be a playmaker on offense primarily. But you could also, if you're kind of sort of trying to taper this out a little bit, I do think he could be a dime type defender defensively, come onto the field in very specific pass situations where maybe either it's Browns are ahead in a game or they're in this certain down and distance situations, and he can be that fourth or third DB that comes onto the field. And hey, I think I've broken this down extensively, and I'm sure your people sort of know this, but Jim Schwartz is very much you see is what you get defensively. He does some movement things post snap, but they say, hey, man, our guys can cover you. We're going to outside shade play man. We're going to play a lot of cover 3, play, like I said, a lot of cover 1. We're going to play some variations of open field coverages, some cover 2, some cover 6 here and there. But it's not an overly challenging thinking defense, like a repetition-based defense for a guy like Hunter. He knows how to play, specific types of coverages. And I think this defense wouldn't force him to be actively, crazily involved in a whole bunch of different meetings and things like that involved eating too much of his time to be less focused on what he can do on offense to be dynamic. So I think he's like, in my world, a full-time wide receiver with spot duties on defense, but we'll see ultimately. But I'm drawn to him for many reasons. Best wide receiver in the draft to me, and it's not close. And that's why I'm most interested in him. And when you sprinkle in the idea that you could get a little bit more from him on defense, that's where I get to justifying the second overall pick, right? Because, you can spin it however you want to. Jamar Chase, these guys who are top picks, it's just where you're at. I mean, listen, if there was a quarterback there, a slam dunk quarterback at 2, they take the quarterback. But you just take what you need where you are, and this one makes too much sense. So I'm not getting caught up on, well, there's like what receivers have gone second overall. It's a big swing. I don't really care. You take what you can where you can take them. I like him. Jalen Milroe is to me the highest ceiling quarterback in the draft. Now, he has a very low basement, a basement that could see him done in a rookie contract. But the tantalization of that ceiling to me is like we're in a division where we see Lamar Jackson 2 times a year at minimum. And we're in a conference where you see another unicorn in Buffalo, another unicorn in Kansas City. We know what Joe Burrow is, who I respect as much as any quarterback in the league. You got to kind of chase that stuff. And with Milroe, you do have the possibility that he could be something like that. I think he compares more to Michael Vick as a thrower and runner than he does Lamar Jackson, because Lamar was much more refined as a passer, productive, and his concept stuff, what he was doing at the college level, is still something that will go down in NFL history as how did we miss this sort of thing in terms of what he was doing throwing wise at the college level. But so much for Milroe, like it was with Lamar, is who he's paired with and how they bring him along. Greg Roman had a lot of deficiencies as an offensive coordinator, but he was really one of the better guys between his time with the 49ers and Colin Kaepernick and then what he did with Lamar, developing quarterback run game that put them into advantageous situations through quarterback legs, through some of the option schemes and various concepts that allowed Lamar to come along as a passer at his own rate. And he did quicker than anyone anticipated, but it's not like they forced too much on him too soon. And teams became very afraid of what he could do as a runner, and that opened up opportunities downfield. And what you're hoping with Milroe is you can embed some of the late season last year quarterback run game the Browns put in place, which was pretty good with Dorian Thompson Robinson, some schemes that I liked, bake it in with more of what Kevin has traditionally done in the gap scheme stuff, in some of their wide zone stuff, and create some play action opportunities for him that just minimize how much he has to process at any given time. And you're patient with him all year, and you try to find the right spots to plug and play him, and you see how he grows and where he matures to. And even if that means sitting out a full season as he gets comfortable, open to all of it. And I'm open to it because I do think if the throwing mental processing, which is not awful, I think it's adequate. If the tempo of the throw stuff, if he can continue to refine the mechanics, think of what Josh Allen was able to do kind of over time in Buffalo as they brought him along, and he used his legs to be a positive part of that offense. If you can be patient with Milroe and find ways to use him that keeps your offense having a chance to be on schedule and a chance to keep growing his confidence, that's where you can find some success. And then you never know, because what you know about Milroe is what you hear, and you hear everything as people love him. He's a leader. He is a front-facing guy, stand-up guy who people are drawn to. Everything you hear about his work ethic is really, really impressive. We know nobody knows this better than Tommy Rees. I think that there's a drawn natural comparison there, and a guy who's worked with him and can figure out in conjunction with how to get him in a better play. He was really a better, more proficient passer when Reeves was the offensive coordinator the year before last year. Now, again, last year ran for 800 yards and 20 touchdowns, so they were using him in different ways. But like, I want to chase exceptional at this position. It's a little bit of why I had a problem with, instead of going with Joe Milton, because that could have been something, they went with Kenny Pickett. I don't want that. I'd like them to chase something special at this position, which is why at the root of the Deshaun Watson trade, I didn't have an issue with it. They ignored way too much of the peripheral stuff, but the root is we need to be dynamic at this position. So let's pursue that. And that's why I'm okay with pursuing that. Now, in that mock draft, we got a little bit of a trade where we could slide down and still get the player because we thought Jacksonville was coming up to get somebody. They did. They took Luther Bird, and that's fine. You move down a couple spots with teams that aren't taking quarterbacks, and you can get Milroe. I do think they're going to probably have to sit and take him at 33, or potentially even slide up a couple spots, maybe to 29 with Washington, who doesn't have very many selections in this draft and might be open to taking, something like 104 or 179 and doing something like that. But ultimately, we'll see how much they like him. They're going to have an opportunity to take him. And I think that there's a pairing here, and I think you should be excited about it, because if Travis Hunter becomes who we envision he can be, which is one of the more, you shy away from saying Justin Jefferson types, but a guy who's got that kind of twitch, route, nuance, hands, athletic ability, body control, he could be that. And then you get somebody who's a version of Lamar Jackson. Football's pretty fun in Cleveland all of a sudden. So that's why you're drawn to the idea of it.